Rentals Club members. Today I'm joined by Brooke Pfautz. He's the CEO and founder of Vintory. Vintory is quite an interesting company because basically it helps property managers grow their inventory, get more supply. And that's very hot, as you know, right now in the industry. Every property manager in Europe, in the US, or even Airbnb is trying all they can to get more supply. And that's what Brooke does every day for his clients. So without further ado, Brooke, hello, welcome. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. As I said it, I'm very happy to have you here because the topic right now, getting more supply, is very important, and it's quite fascinating because I think basically a year ago, it's for a lot of us in the industry, it just became it was a nightmare, right? Like massive cancellations and refunding and forced refundings by the OTAs, and it was like the end of the world. And now it's like everybody's fighting to get more supply because there's just like this wave of new bookings happening, especially in the US, and start soon in Europe, hopefully. But so when did you start seeing this trend happening that people, for example, get to you and say, Brooke, I need your help to get more supply? When did you see this happening first?
Well, thank you. And first off, I mean, this has been kind of the big problem, I guess, in our industry since I've been in it. So just to give a little bit of background, I started in the industry about 13 years ago. I founded a company called Vantage Resort Realty in Ocean City, Maryland. It's about 3 hours east of Washington, D.C. And I grew that company pretty quickly. And I realized very early on the number one issue, or really to kind of solve our business problem, if you will, is I have to get inventory, right? I can get the guests, but if I don't have any inventory on my shelves, so to speak, like it doesn't matter, the guest side of it. So what I learned really, really quickly is we needed to add properties. And so that was my mission. And like I said, I grew that company pretty quickly, grew it to about 500 properties under management in 5 years. And I really enjoyed that part of it. I really enjoyed kind of the sales and marketing side of it. I really enjoyed adding new properties. I'll be very candid with you though, and vulnerable. I didn't enjoy operations. I didn't enjoy like leading a team of housekeepers and maintenance people and creating the standard operating procedures on all that stuff. So I learned pretty quickly that wasn't really my sweet spot. So I left there and I ended up going I was chief business development officer for a multi-destinational vacation rental company. So there again, I was only focused on helping, grow inventory. And then I went on to a software company where I was VP of sales and marketing. And again, I led a bunch of mastermind groups. And these were groups of 8 to 10, people per mastermind group. And I heard time and time again, the biggest pain point that they had was growing the supply, growing the inventory side of it. And here was what I found so interesting. You have all these companies, and even if you look now, all this money coming into this space, everything is focused on the demand, on the guest side of it. Nobody is focused on the supply. And yet that is the most important part. If you add one new property to a rental program, I ask this question all the time to every one of our partners. I said, if I could get you 10 new properties right now, would they be booked solid this summer? And every one of them is like, absolutely. We've got the demand. I just need the supply. So again, I realized that this was a huge pain point, and I was probably, it was something that I really enjoyed. It was something that I was blessed to be pretty good at. And there was a huge demand for it and nobody was doing it. So I decided to start. So 2 years ago, we launched Vintory, and to say we've caught lightning in a bottle is an understatement.
So what I find fascinating, again, most people watching or listening are entrepreneurs themselves. So it resonates with a lot of us, right? And yourself being this company created, and we'll talk a bit more about how you not only created a service, but now you also have a product. We'll talk about your move into the software world. But if we still talk about the industry, so everybody wants more supply, and I think as well. I was looking at your website. You have Vintory has a very good website. A lot of explainer videos that are really well made. And for example, you said that a new property is worth about 100 new bookings, if I'm correct, right? So meaning like the growth of the company could be through getting more bookings for a property manager, but also making more inventory. Again, right now it's kind of obvious everybody wants more inventory, but just like it's kind of interesting to me. So can you maybe help us understand, can you walk us through the math, let's say, or the metrics that people should have in mind, regardless, if they do their supply acquisition on their own, what kind of metrics and what kind of math should people have in mind when you think, okay, I'm going to go after a market, I want to add a new property, and this is what's going to result in for our business?
Yeah, and I love to nerd out on unit economics and metrics related to the vacation rental industry. So thank you for asking that. But I actually gave an entire session. It's actually on our website. Anybody can listen to the video, and we just talk about the unit economics. But most vacation rental managers, when I go through this exercise, they're blown away by it. They don't realize the value of one property to the rental program and what that does, right? So often, so many people are going out there, vacation rental managers, they're going after there and they're trying to add, with revenue management, they're trying to tweak to get an extra 2% over here, or they're trying to get one extra reservation over here. They're working their tails off to make that happen, but they don't, and that's important. You need to do that. I don't want to discount that, but they're not taking a lot of time and just saying, hey, if I added one new property, what would that do to my bottom line? And let's go through the math. So what I found when I was at LiveRes, which was one of the largest property management softwares on the planet, they were doing about $1 billion worth of reservations through their system. So pretty significant. The average property across the board was $35,000 in gross booking revenue. That's what the average US, that's what the average property did in gross booking revenue. And I've asked this question hundreds of times. The average margins that falls to the bottom line as far as net profit is anywhere between 8 and 12%. Realistically, it's 10%. Like that is the time and time again. It's like, so if you have one property that's doing 35,000 in gross booking revenue, multiply that times 10%, that's $3,500. That's the average profit for one property. But the thing is, in 1 year, the problem is, or the opportunity here is, you don't keep a property in your rental program for 1 year, right? You're going to keep it for some properties you may keep in your rental program for 1 year. Some you may keep for 20 years. But to understand what your lifetime is in years, it's a simple formula. You take 1 divided by your churn percentage. So I'll make that simple. Churn is what percentage of your inventory do you lose every year? And the average of the average of the averages, I've asked this question multiple times, is 10%, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to figure out what's your lifetime in years, you take 1 divided by 10%. If that's the case, and that's the average, it comes out to a 10-year lifetime in years. So you take your 3,500 in gross in profits times 10. What does that equal? $35,000. So here's a little hack for you, right? The average margins are 10%. The average lifetime is 10 years. So what does that mean? That means exactly whatever your gross booking revenue is, and that's what your lifetime value will be. So if I help you get one property this year, that's going to make you $35,000 in profits over the next 10 years. If I help you get 10 properties this next year, that's $350,000 in profit that I'm, providing to you and your company. But it gets better than that. Some people are going to want to sell their business, right? They may not want to do this for the rest of their life. Every one of those contracts has a value, right? Every one of those contracts has a value. If you look at the turnkey in Vacasa, or the acquisition of turnkey, the rumor I heard, and I don't know exactly, but the rumor I heard it was $120 million for 6,000 units. Wow. So that means every one of those contracts was $20,000. We did a deal a couple months ago where we have an M&A division, and it came out to about $11,000 per contract. So when you go to sell your business, so not only have you made money each and every year that you keep those properties in your rental program, but when you go to sell your business, you're getting a check, right? That's your down payment on your place in St. Bart's or wherever you're.
Just saying. So I think thanks for walking us through the math. And again, I agree with you. I kind of cheated, prepared this interview. I look at the video; it's really, really well made. Again, so I will of course, will link in the article in the video to these resources. So let's imagine now. I know I want to expand to, let's say, St. Bart's. I know I sound like a good market. I want to expand there. How do I go about it? So again, imagine I know that I could go on the island, hold an information session and hope for the best, right? How can I leverage data? before doing anything, how can I leverage data to even know whether I should go there, for example? How would you say about it? How to leverage data before doing anything to identify in which market we should be going?
Right. So, and I will, kind of going down the data path here, we are focused exclusively right now in the United States. That's where all of our partners are. It's challenging to get data for the European markets and outside of the US. We do have a software platform that that we've developed, but we will be releasing that, I guess, for additional markets, probably call it around Q3. But if a partner were to hire us and to engage with us, to kind of, let's say, help them, grow their inventory in a specific market, it all starts with data. That's where it all starts. And the kind of the process we go through, and it gets a little bit complicated, and I'm apologizing for boring some people. Some people may get interested in this, but we have 3 data scientists on our team. And the first thing we do is when we meet with our partners, we want to understand what their ICP is, their ideal customer profile. And what does the ideal customer look for you? And that's really the house, right? And so once we understand what that is, it could be oceanfront only, or it could be, I only want 5 bedrooms or greater, or I only want properties in this community, or whatever happens to be. That's where it all kind of starts, is with the data. And then our data scientist teams goes out there and gets data. And you can get data from a couple different sources. The first is just the MLS. If you have access to like a multi-listing services like real estate or tax records, you can go through list brokers. There's many list brokers out there that will sell that individual data. The other one that a lot of people don't think of in the US is vacation rental permit data. Due to the Freedom of Information Act, that information is public. So if you go to the local county or the city or the township and you request that data, if they do require permits, you can actually get it. And some of that data is fantastic. It tells you everything you need to know about them, their name, their mailing address, their emails, their phone numbers, everything. And you can even, if you want to really go one step further, there's some companies out there that you can hire to actually scrape some of the OTAs. The problem with the OTA scraped part of it is it's only giving you the property address. It's not giving you the mailing address. So this is where you need a data team, data scientists that merge all this data together to give you one unified file. So then you can then identify it. And then what we always recommend with our partners is actually segmenting that list. You can segment it by different ways. You can segment it by, the first thing we usually do is like an A target, a B target, and a C target. And then depending on how you want to hit them, you can kind of say, all right, I want to hit my A targets monthly, I want to hit my B targets quarterly, I want to hit my C targets annually or semi-annually. Or you can even go into personas where you actually are breaking up based on some of that information you have. You're actually identifying them as personas, and then you're marketing them different ways. And if I'm really nerding out here, but you can actually change your messaging based on the persona that you're going after and based on those pain points. So I know RBO Ruby is going to have different pain points than competitor Carla, or we call venture-backed Victor, would be one of the large venture-backed companies. Those pain points are going to be different for each one of those companies. So the messaging is going to be different, catered. And again, we're going to do this in multiple ways. We're not just going to hit them with direct mail. We're going to hit them in a whole omni-channel kind of marketing effort, which I can talk about later what that entails.
Yeah. So Brooks, thank you so much for sharing this, because in a way you are sharing how people could, go now and apply this, right? And it's possible in Europe as well. You were talking about a few things. I'm like, yeah, that's smart. I could do this. I could do part of this, right? But what's interesting as well for me, nice to hear, I could be doing all these things, and learn how to do this bit by bit and try to cross-reference the data. But obviously, that's something you guys do, and not only as a service, but also you have a product, some software product now that I think you launched a couple of weeks ago. So I'm very curious again now to understand the full array of services that you offer, and what this I think the CRM and sales automation platform offers.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. Well, there was a great editorial that Mark Andreessen wrote about, gosh, it was probably 10 years ago. It was called "Software is Eating the World." And it just talked about how, software is taking over everything, if you think about it. And in the future, there will not be software companies and non-software companies. There will only be software companies, right? Every business. I mean, even look at cars. Look at Tesla is a computer, really, if you think about it. So from the very beginning of creating this company, even though we launched as really a marketing agency, if you will, the play and the idea was always to build out some kind of software product, but I really wanted to understand the pain points of our partners and really understand, rather than just trying to build it right off the bat, I wanted to understand what did they need, what was the problem we were trying to solve for them. So we're actually, and I'll be candid with you, what we originally did was we actually, as I call, Frankenstein a bunch of off-the-shelf type products to kind of build what that product would look like. So we used HubSpot for a CRM. We used CallRail for call tracking. We used Unbounce for landing pages. And we used a whole slew of other technologies and kind of wrapped them all together and as part of our marketing agency while we were building out the platform. But what we learned from that was what worked, what didn't work, what did our partners like, what did our partners not like, what did they need, what was again, the pain point we were trying to solve for. And I have this saying, it's like, hold the partner tightly, hold the problem we're trying to solve tightly, hold the solution loosely. And what that means is I want to make sure we're solving their problem and not be so hell-bent on going in one direction just because it's the direction we need to go in. It comes down to, we want to solve this damn problem, right? So the software that we've built, and we're constantly iterating, and it's getting better and better and better. It's a CRM and sales and marketing automation. So all your leads come into this, right? It's actually one part. It starts with a landing page. So we actually create a micro owner site for our partners, and that's like embedded in their website. So it's a really well-designed landing page using best practices and capturing leads and converting leads. People can schedule demos and schedule appointments directly through that technology. There's a kind of like a Calendly-like link. It captures that form. Once they fill in that form, the lead comes into the system. You can keep track of it. You can kind of drag and drop really easily from different stages. Every time you move a lead from one stage to the next, there's marketing automation that happens. So it'll automatically text message the prospective owner. It'll email that prospective owner. And we've already built in kind of the proven formula of like these templates that are in there that do all the follow-up. So literally, it's almost like having an assistant, like doing all the follow-up for you. And the part that everyone loves the most is, nobody likes actually like the process of like sending out a contract, right? You got to log into DocuSign or HelloSign or whatever it happens to be. You got to fill in all the forms. Then you got to send it. You got to pay for that subscription. Well, our service, you literally just drag it into the send contract stage. It merges in all those fields and then automatically sends the contract directly to them. We have a direct integration with DocuSign. Once they sign that contract, it comes right back into the system. We then just drag it to closed one. And then what happens is it kicks off the onboarding process. And everyone hates the onboarding process because there's like 16 steps that need to happen. Well, this automatically will actually notify the onboarding team that, hey, we have a new deal, we have a new property. So it'll send a message to maybe your marketing girl, Mary, and it let her know that she has to load it on Airbnb and the website and Vrbo. It'll send an email to maybe your maintenance person and letting him know that he needs to do the walkthrough, and it can notify accounting that, hey, they need to register this property, send out whatever tax forms that need to get sent out, but that happens all automatically. And that's just one process. There's tons of other kind of features and benefits within the platform, and I don't want this to be a big commercial for me. So
yeah, but I think I think it's very interesting because again, some people think, hey, I could do this myself, right? And if I understand correctly, right, if I do have like a website on my own agency website, property management company website, everybody has like a page about owners, right? Hey, you want to work with us? Here in this case, I could embed this landing page you talked about, and then basically it's the entry door to your series of systems. And I guess messages, sequences, all the rest gets customized to my company. So that's the software automation part. But still, you also do this, as we talked about at the beginning. You still have these services that say, hey, I just don't want just the automation. Can you actually drive give me some leads, generate leads for me? So you also, of course, still do this kind of services, right? Generating, as we talked about earlier, getting us leads.
Yeah, so that's where it actually starts, right? It starts on the lead generation. And what we do is we actually have deployed what we call our omni-channel marketing approach. And the omni-channel marketing approach consists of a couple different things. The first is, is direct mail. The vacation rental industry is one of the few industries where direct mail still works. If you go through the math of actually, how many pieces I have to send out, what's my response rate, what's my conversion rate, if you do the math on that, based on that lifetime value we talked about before, it works. So we'll do 12 months of campaigns for our partners, and we'll manage that whole entire process and send it out. We have some really cool creative things that get really good response rates. Next up is email, and email is one of the things that really surprised me the most. That actually works really well. So we gather those email addresses, we send out email campaigns that go out, and consistently we get leads from that, and we end up converting into deals. We actually had one campaign, the first campaign we did for one of our partners in Kauai. He got 2 deals off that first email campaign, and each one of those properties did about $100,000 in gross booking revenue. So you can do the math. Nice. You got 2 deals, that's $200,000, and he has a 10% margins and 10% churn. So it was a $200,000 lifetime in profits from one email campaign.
Okay, it depends how much you charge, Brooke.
Yeah. What's that? How much I charge?
How much you charged?
Well, yeah, we paid for ourselves for life with that one email campaign. That was for sure. So next up is digital, right? So PPC. So we have an entire digital marketing department. We're a full digital marketing agency. So we have a digital marketing department that goes in there and is managing all the pay-per-click campaigns. The problem with pay-per-click is there's not a lot of search volume. So much of the search volume is looking for guests. It's very hard to distinguish, for the owner side. So you have to take a really long tail approach. So we use almost as many as 80 different keywords and terms and phrases that we're searching for. But we have a team that knows what those key phrases are. So that's another one. Then moving on, one of my favorites is what's called, and you're probably familiar with this, is list-based retargeting, or it's also known as custom audiences with Facebook and Instagram. It's called matched audiences with LinkedIn, and I think it's called tailored audiences with Twitter. And this is where if you have your list, and if you have let's say the person's name, you have their address, you have their email address, you have their phone number, you can actually upload this into the social channels, and now you can serve up display ads. At the same time you're hitting them with direct mail, you can serve up these digital ads right on their social feed. And it's not the old school social marketing where I call it like triangulating, trying to figure out based on their interest and their likes and where they live. You actually know you are serving this ad up to that person, and that person owns a vacation home in the community you're going after. So it's a game changer that we've seen, and I absolutely love list-based retargeting. Another one that's really popular here in the U.S. and we've had a lot of luck with is called IP address or IP targeting. So we can actually gather the IP addresses of our targets. So again, we have our targets we're going after. Remember, we've segmented them. We have them by persona. Now we're serving up the display ads directly on their, through the Google network. So we're doing it on, call it, ESPN or Weather Channel or, the news stations or newspapers, websites and things like that. We can serve up those ads directly in there. And then, but all this is important, but we know all this, we're trying to drive all this traffic to our landing page. But we know even the best designed landing pages, and we have an entire team that tracks this and everything else, the best landing pages still, 90% of the traffic doesn't convert. So we want to make sure we're retargeting them. So we have a couple different ways we're retargeting them. We're retargeting them through traditional social retargeting. We're doing it through Google, retargeting. But the one that we just launched that I really love is called direct mail retargeting. And this is where a person comes to that landing page. They don't fill out a form. We capture their IP address. We match that IP address to their mailing address. And then within 48 hours, we've got a postcard that's been sent automatically to them. But this is done automatically within our system. All you have to do is once you approve that first postcard, we call it set it and forget it. You just put it in there, and we know every single person. Now, it doesn't get 100% match. It averages about a 50% match rate. But of that 50% match rate, it has a 96% confidence rate that you're sending it to the right person. So we're doing all these retargeting. So this is how you get leads in the top of the funnel, is through this omni-channel marketing approach.
Brooke, thank you again. Thank you so much for sharing, because I think, again, you could say, wow, why is he spitting out the beans? Why are you telling everything that goes behind? Because also it's like, when you talk about one of the things you're doing, that I could do that. But so you have, and we do this, and we do that, and we do this. And of course, then it's also, everything is matched and tracked, right? So it means that you know that you've been doing all these things, and you, as you said, right, and the IP address goes together with a postal address, and this is matched, and this actually will get smarter. So let's say I'm based in the US, I'm property manager, and I really want more supply, and I'm like, yeah, I could be doing this by myself, but you know what? Maybe I should be talking with Brooke. So how can people reach you?
Yeah, well, they can just go to our website, which is vintory.com, or you can just email me, Brooke, with an E, at vintory.com as well. But you're absolutely right. It's funny. You do mention that so many people, and I've heard this a lot. So many people say, you know what, I could probably do this stuff myself, but nobody really has the bandwidth, right? Inventory acquisition is one of those things that is important, and it's, but it's non-urgent. So what happens is they don't end up doing it, right? So traditionally what ends up happening is so often these people, these vacation rental managers, they give these tasks to their current team, right? They give it to their reservationists. They ask them to play data scientist, right? They give their HR person, they're asking them to play graphic designer. You know what I mean? They're given, so now you're stretching them thin, and you know what I mean? They don't have the bandwidth to do it. It's not their core skill set. So you're better off just delegating it to a company like ours that has, we have 45 team members that are focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's growing inventory. And this is all we do. So
That's fantastic. Thanks again for your time today, for all these clear explanations, and we'll put the links in the article. Brooke, have a great day.
thank you.